This map has a big name. A plan of the general survey from the town of Malmesbury to the Porcupine Inn, from the sources of Forest Creek to Golden Point, showing the Alexandrian Range, also Sawpit Gully, Bendigo and Bullock Creeks. It covers a big area of Victoria, from Sunbury and Mount Macedon in the south, to Rochester and Ferniehirst in the north, and from the Campaspe River in the east to the Loddon River in the west. The map was made in 1852 by the staff of the Surveyor General's Department, especially by Surveyor General Robert Hoddle and Deputy Surveyor General William Urquhart. It represents 15 years of arduous field work. Alfred Selwyn, newly appointed Chief Geologist to the colony of Victoria, took this map with him into the field in 1853 and made his own rough notes about the geological structure of the country. Selwyn also added to the map the green and pink colour coding to represent the geological structure and history of the landscape. The green represents the basalt rock. Greenhill near Malmesbury is this little spot on the map. From around 5 million years ago, this little extinct volcano, in a series of eruptions, poured out billions of tons of lava, filling the old valleys and covering the sandstone hills to form these extensive volcanic plains. The depth of the basalt can be seen here at Turpin's Falls. It goes from way below the bottom of this deep pool, right up to the horizon line. Selwyn used pink to denote the granite country centred on Mount Alexander. This marks the beginning of scientific geology in Australia. The map is a beautiful work of art, and the credit for this must go to one of the Survey Office's draftsmen, C.A.C. Bailey. The evenness and clarity of his handwriting, even where the size is minute, is breathtaking. He must have been proud of his work, for he signed it in writing so tiny that it is at once extremely modest and a display of his virtuosity. People love this map. It is fascinating, enchanting, magical. It looks so calm, still, and beautiful. It invites us in to explore its intriguing, detailed descriptions, to go searching for familiar points that allow us to link the world of 1852 to the familiar present. It allows us to become time travellers. We go looking for the beginning point of our stories. Major Mitchell's story of exploration, the story of the squatters, the story of gold, the stories of Bendigo, Malmesbury, Carisbrook, and places not yet named, whole areas yet to be surveyed. The map is seductive and encourages us to linger and bathe in a soft, comfortable and comforting nostalgic light. But this is very paradoxical. We need to break this spell. 1835. John Batman and John Pascoe Faulkner of the Port Phillip Association arrive and establish a beachhead. Later, Melbourne. 1836. Melbourne. Population 200. 1839. Melbourne. Population more than 2,000. 21st century Melbourne, over 4 million. Thomas Ham's 1849 map of the purchased and measured lands, counties and parishes of the Melbourne and Geelong districts takes us back to the violent moment of origin, the springing forth of modern European culture in this place. It represents the moment when British people burst into this part of the world and suddenly, utterly transformed it. Our plan of general survey map is a plan for the spread of the same pattern. By the time it was made, there were over 100,000 Europeans in Victoria. Now this same region of central Victoria looks like this. From space we can see how our history, our modern culture, inherited from Europe, has printed itself on the landscape of this place. But the magic of this map, made in 1852, is that it enables us to look back behind this moment of origin, to see the landscape as it was before Europeans transformed it. It shows us the landscape made by Aboriginal people, by the Dja Dja Wurrung clans of this region. 50 years of scientific and historical research has told us that Aboriginal people used the technology of systematic burning to create grasslands and open woodlands on all the areas of good soil. This created an ecology that supported large mobs of kangaroos and emus and grew fields of yellow-flowered murnong or yam daisy. These beautiful descriptions of the vegetation and soils follow the sweep of the landscape. They give us detailed understanding of how this Aboriginal created and managed landscape looked when Europeans came into it. The best soils of this region are those of volcanic origin. This is how they were shown on the map. Often we assume that all the open country was cleared by the European axe. But here is what Major Mitchell saw from the top of Mount Greenock. He drew this 180-degree sketch showing the cleared volcanic hills. He called them the Mamaloid Hills. If we stand on the same hill today, we can see a very similar pattern of clear country and patches of forest. The forest is on the poor sandstone country. Major Mitchell described the country in the following terms. Coming through similar grassy valleys, we approached two lofty, smooth, round hills, and I enjoyed such a charming view eastward from the summit as can but seldom fall to the lot of the explorer of new countries. The hills consisted entirely of lava, and I named them, from their peculiar shape, the Mamaloid Hills. The alluvial soils on the vast river plains and creek flats were kept open by Aboriginal burning practices. The map has these descriptions. They looked like this then. In the 1840s, squatter Henry Godfrey drew the extensive grassy plains with their belts of box, sheoaks and Murray pines. The Bort Plains look like this today. The rolling granite country was described by early Europeans as having a park-like, open woodland appearance. In many places it is similar today. It was these grasslands that drew Europeans here, so the map can remind us of something we usually prefer to forget, that our society, our modern Australian way of life, is founded on an act of violent invasion and dispossession. In 1835, there were a handful of British people in Victoria. Just 16 years later, there were over 100,000. In 1835, there were around 20,000 Aboriginal people in Victoria. By 1852, their numbers had fallen to around 3,000. By 1852, there were over 1,000 sheep stations, outstation huts and roadside inns spread right across Victoria. There were 6 million sheep and 400,000 cattle. We can see this new reality on the map. Aitken's Station and Huts, Argyle Inn, Barker's Station and Hawkins Inn, Birch's Station, Bryant's Station, Simpson's Hut, Carlsrue Inn and Dryden's Station, Langdon's Homestead, Orr's Stratford Lodge. There are many more stations, huts and inns on this map. They were all occupied by armed British people, and they commanded all the places where there was good water and grass. Historian James Boyce argues that the invasion of Victoria was one of the fastest and most comprehensive conquests in the history of the British Empire. This quiet, calm, beautiful map can show us many big stories. We can see the vast story of geology and climate here. It's the story of the Earth that has provided the opportunities and set the limits for all the human societies that have existed here. It does indeed show us the beginnings of the great stories of modern Australia as they unfolded here in this place. But it can also help us remember some terrible, disturbing things about our history that should not be forgotten. Are these the new invasion and dispossession maps? These are the government maps of the climate change projections for Victoria in 2070. Today we stand at a point of choice about what level of devastating climate change we will cause. If the map can help us remember the shameful story that should not be forgotten, it may also help us think ahead and embrace the changes necessary for the happiness of our grandchildren.